All righty. Good morning, y'all. This is Ron. Uh, let's see. There were a couple of things kind of hit me today, and I wanted to. Uh, Charles, are you on?
Yes, I'm on.
Charles, do me a favor and state your question that you had about in Genesis.
It
You
was
remember?
yeah, I remember some of it. It was chapter one that um when he talks about creation,
Uh-huh.
he was talking about the blueprint that Elohim did. But in chapter two, I think, the Lord God, created what he had put, on blueprint. That's the only way I can, tell you.
Okay.
And
Eh,
so, go ahead.
No, I'm sorry. I interrupted. I thought you were done. My apologies.
I was done.
Well, I wanted to say something about that because I don't want to forget it. And I wanted to make sure that pastor and the teachers, here's where we are right now. I think we've way past defining things. We're way past that. We're way past doing things and trying to memorize what they mean. Everything we're the place we are now, we're experiencing everything. We're absorbing it. We're becoming one with. We're vibrating with the universe, and I think even in since the uh, I'll use it as a memorial, I guess, to remember things. Since the election, I think we're even at a different space since then. So I bring up your question about Genesis because we haven't answered it directly yet, but I wanted the pastor and the teachers to be prepared. There was a book that we had some years ago, and I remember Pastor and I talking about this book and looking at this book, and we couldn't, and Kathy and some of us may have taught from it and talked about it, and we got bits and pieces from it. But one day it all made sense. And it all made sense one day when S stood up and started talking about the book. And for whatever reason, from that point on, it started gelling and it came to us. And I think that was the point where we start experiencing things more than trying to learn things analytically, because that's who we were. That's how we were used to learning things is using our intellectual abilities and our academics to kind of pick up on things. And I think that was the day when that we surpassed that. So I bring up Genesis and the question that you asked because when somebody feels it, when somebody feels the place and the need and goes in to see that, then because we've talked about Genesis for years on and off, and we see bits and pieces of it, and I think that's where we are now. But I think this we're at the place where all of this is going to start making sense to us like a puzzle. And so I just want to put that out there. For one, to let you know we have not forgotten your question, and for two, number two, to let you know as we study these lessons, we're always pondering what we talk about and how all this stuff fits together. Okay, does that make sense? Hadn't forgotten your
Yeah,
question.
it
Okay.
makes sense because when I looked at it again, and I when I was looking at it, I looked at it as man, and we Elohim, so we created. But if it was real, if it's spiritual, like you say, our Father is gonna make it happen for real. And
Well,
that's why I looked and saw into that. And I'm saying to myself, wow. I mean, it hit me like a ton of bricks because I know Reb had taught about this.
Yeah.
But that time, it really stuck.
I think I really believe this with all my heart. I think the scriptures have remained a mystery for eons until someone comes along who wants the value of who he is, to see the value of what's written there, although it has been whatever has happened to it, manipulated and pushed around, and the truth is there to be pulled from it. And I think it is waiting for someone to bring life to it. And that is what we have begun to do. So I have no doubt, and I see exactly what you're saying. Uh, and as we ponder these things and ask questions and probe and dig, as we say, go down rabbit holes, there are things that we will see and understand that it's almost as though we've looked at them for the first time. But I just want to mention that because we always talk about questions, and I don't want anybody to think anything that you have asked has gone unnoticed. Just isn't time to talk about it yet. Nobody feels it yet. Okay. Um, with that said, on yesterday, we went back to Nehemiah 8, looking at joy. And we did something different yesterday. I did not ask if we had any questions because I thought it was important enough that we went back to that chapter and kind of continued that discussion. But I will ask today, uh, were there any questions that you were holding from yesterday uh, about yesterday's lesson, or something else that may have been outside of yesterday's lesson that you would like to discuss? Um,
Good, good morning, Ron.
yes, sir. Hey,
Good
George, how
morning,
you?
everyone. Yeah, yesterday you had mentioned in reference to chapter 7, and I did not, have the
Yeah.
opportunity to read that. And as I read it yesterday, I just wanted to respond to what it was speaking about in terms of rebuilt. And it talked about rebuilt or rebuilding the wall
Mm-hmm.
in terms of Nehemiah and, in terms of the names and the numbers. But I thought about where we are in terms of being repairers of the breach. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Or being
Yeah.
restores a pathway that people can dwell in. And so it made me think about that when I, was reading chapter number 7. And, that is appealing to me. You know what I mean? How do we rebuild? How do we look at where we are now and being the lights that we are to bring this harmony and oneness in terms of where we're heading. So I was just thinking about, that Nehemiah, building the wall or rebuilding the wall, but how that relate to, now. So those are my thoughts. Thanks for letting me share those things.
George, I read that verse. I'm sorry, that chapter also. And there was no doubt in my mind that that chapter is talking about now. It is my total belief that that chapter is speaking to where we are at this moment, just as the verses that Kathy opened up in Nehemiah 8 spoke to where we are also. So what am I saying? I'm saying that I believe with Ron that we are in a position now to bring life to the scriptures, meaning that we are in a place of this journey where we are beginning to see that the scriptures were written for such a time as this. Does that make sense, George?
Yes, it does. Yes, it does. Absolutely.
So that's what I think we will be seeing for quite some time from this period forward. Thank you.
Okay. So no one has any question about yesterday. Does everybody understand? Well, not
I
understand.
want, right. I
Yes, sir.
want to make sure that everyone understands that what we talked about yesterday was predicated on the foundation that was laid last Monday, and that is the foundation of joy in spite of what our eyes see. And I don't want to put Kathy on the spot, but I want to ask her if she would speak to that to joy again, since we talked about so much yesterday. And I think everything we talked about did indeed involve a sense of joy, regardless of what the outer appearance looks like. Kathy, if you don't mind, would you do that?
Good morning, everyone. Pastor, to be honest, I don't mind at all, but I think where you took us yesterday, like Ron said at the beginning, we are beyond looking at just trying to define something. And I think Audrey described it yesterday as the feeling of the rushing wind in the upper room, and the balance and the peace and the harmony that I'm hoping everyone felt by the time we got off the phone yesterday. I just, when I hung up, my first thought was, we just experienced that joy that we've been talking about for 2 days now, for I don't know how many days, maybe two days, maybe third day now. And I think we've had that experience. And so I'm not sure, because I've laid that foundation 2 times. I'm not sure how you want me to lay it again, as far as I need a question or something. Is there someone who's not understanding? Because it's hard to go back and try to, and I don't even want to try to define it, because it's nothing that can be defined per se, but it's just making you aware that this is in you, and that you have the opportunity to choose this joy, this vehicle of joy that ushers in from the supernatural realm, from the spiritual realm, into the presence, the earth consciousness realm. We have that innate ability in us, because of the spirit man that we are, to be able to tap into that reservoir of a surging, powerful energy, like hot coals and energy on the inside of you, that pulsates on the inside of you, that goes undetected unless you make the conscious effort to say, you know what, in spite of what I see with my eyes or what I hear with my ears, I choose joy. And when we choose this thing called joy, we go into a place of being balanced. We go into a place of remaining harmonious with everything that's going on around us, in spite of it looks like it's all a dumpster fire being burned to the ground. It doesn't matter what you hear and see in the physical. You recognize that by your state of joy, by your state of remaining balanced, you are the one that's bridging the gap. You're the one that's ushering into this realm everything that we've been expecting to see. And one of the things that we talked about yesterday that we've been expecting to see is the end of this white supremacy, racism, and all the isms and things that are negative. And now it's time for us to usher these things into this realm, because it has already taken place in the spiritual realm. And that's why we can't grieve and be upset and worry about what we see and get all caught up in, well, what do we do now? What do we do now? No. What you do is just set your intent and just be. Just continue to be harmonious, continue to be the joy that we have the ability to tap into and to be. And so it's hard for me, after what you did yesterday, to just sum it up, because we really, in my opinion, yesterday, we experienced this thing called joy. We tapped into that. And I don't think it was, and correct me if I'm wrong, someone, I don't think it was an individual that was on the phone yesterday that got off feeling the same way that you may have gotten on feeling. I think we had an upper room experience. I think we went to that place of joy and experienced it. So I'm saying all of that to say I'm not certain exactly what you want me to speak to at this point, Pastor.
You just did it.
Oh, okay. All right.
Thank
Yeah.
you.
Yeah, and again, you know, Kathy, as Pat said, you just did it, and it made me think about, you know, yesterday. I felt that I was in a whirlwind yesterday. I was in a wind, a mighty wind yesterday, in terms of the wind of what was being spoken, and in that wind, um, I thought about what Audrey had mentioned in terms of this mighty wind, and I'm just again grateful in terms of my week. And everybody had their own week in their own way, but I really tried to meditate on the joy of the Lord is my strength. And now that my thoughts are reflected on that, my words, you know, are speaking on that, and my actions are now carrying out my desire of this holistic understanding of this mighty wind. For the purpose of today, I'll just share one experience that I had during my meditations and my going through traveling the circle of the universe in terms of what I was doing. I decided that I wanted to listen to music. Now, I'll just share this only because it's just my personal journey. I was listening to Earth, Wind, and Fire. And in this hour, this power hour time that I spent, I listened to a song called Mighty Mighty. And I'm only sharing it in terms of vibration, energy, frequency. It said, we are the people. We are people of the mighty, mighty people of the sun. In our hearts lies all the answers to the truth you can't run from. And I know we were talking about truth yesterday, and we've been speaking on that, you know, in terms of a principle. But man, I mean, it's just been an exciting week. I'm still there, and I'm just, you know, as I said, I feel like it's a whirlwind for me in terms of appreciating the wind of words that have been spoken this week. So again, thank you, family, for just letting me share my thoughts. I'm done.
And may I add one thing to what you just said, George? We are the people of the S-U-N on that song. It's S-U-N and not S-O-N.
Absolutely. Absolutely. No coincidences, Kathy. And we know who we saw in the museum when you guys came to Philly. No coincidence.
Yes.
I'm done. Thank you.
George, speak to that for a moment, please. There were people who were not with us in the museum.
Yes, as the teachers all gathered in Philadelphia, we wanted to go to various places in the city of Philadelphia where we could appreciate the energy flow. You know, we went to a recreation center, we went to a rehab center, and we went to the Philadelphia Museum of Art. In the museum, you know, we had a chance to see what our eyes, that which had interest us. However, we ran into one of the Earth, Wind, and Fire singers. I think it's Philip Bailey. I want to believe that's who he was.
It was.
Okay, he was. And so in our eyes, we saw what we saw, but in our eye, I believe that there was a spiritual connection in terms of us being able to appreciate who we are. And if any of those of you who have the opportunity to do a little research on Earth, Wind, and Fire, you know the significance of their journey in terms of how they communicate in the macro, the spiritual desires and interests and just out in the macro. So, Pastor, that's, you know, what I came to see today in terms of just how we have been connecting in a way that maybe we couldn't see it then, but look at it now. So those were my thoughts about that experience, Pastor. I'm done.
Thank you. Is there anyone else about to say something? Was there someone else? Or raise a question? Because I want to, I want us to, if we will, look at that. That's chapter 7, beginning at verse 63. Ron, you were talking about that chapter. Do you have it available, please?
Yeah, can I back up and read one verse before we go to 63?
Oh, yeah.
Please. This is the people coming back from a captivity. And if you see anybody see something here spiritual that you want to bring out, please do so. But these were the people captured by Nebuchadnezzar, right? And this is Ezra and Nehemiah coming back. Yes, sir.
I'll make sure that everyone knows Nehemiah chapter 7. Okay, go ahead.
Yes. Nehemiah chapter 7. So they coming back and they're building the city walls of Jerusalem. And when it talks about the governor, that's Nehemiah. The priest and the scribe is Ezra. Okay. So if you've ever read the book of Ezra, this goes along with, but I want to read chapter 5 because this is, excuse me, I'm sorry. I want to read verse 5 out of chapter 7 because this to me kind of ties together everything we're going to say. It says, then, so they're getting ready to do this. And he's about to put the doors on and the gatekeepers and all everybody into place. And verse 5 says, then my God put it in my heart to assemble the nobles, the officials, and the people to be enrolled by genealogies. Then I found the book of genealogy of those who came up first, which I found in the following records. In other words, this is a link to everybody who's there with him and the history of who they are. So he's saying those who came up with me, those who were brought up in captivity. And I saw so many things in that. Not only, as we mentioned on, yes, this links the ancestors to who we are now. This is the book of genealogy. And you say, what's the book of genealogy is in your heart. The book of genealogy is what we talk about when we talk about the ancestors and who we are. So he looks at this and he thought God put it on him to talk about how important this was. This was the other thing that I saw in this. Not only is this an opportunity to return to beginning when, as George put it, when the breach first takes place, but this is an opportunity for forgiveness. Forgiveness is returning back to beginning. And this takes you back to before this thing was broken, before you were broken. So I just thought that was interesting and worth saying because there's so much wrapped up in looking at the book of genealogy. So after that, he starts talking about who the gatekeepers was, who the priests were, who all the families were, the sons of Israel, and all those people. Yes, sir. Did you have something, Pastor?
No, I'm waiting on you.
Okay. So then I want to go into verse 6. The verse I really want to talk about was verse 64, but you got to read 63 first. And then we'll tie it to where we were yesterday. So he's reading this book, and he says, verse 63, of the priests, the sons of Hobiah, the sons of Hakzog, the sons of Barzillai, who took a wife of the daughters of Barzillai, the Gileadite, and was named after them. Listen at this. These searched their ancestral register, but it could not be located. Therefore, they were considered unclean and excluded from the priesthood. The governor said to them that they should not eat from the most holy things until a priest arose from Europe and Thummim. I thought that was interesting, and that's what we want to talk about. Uh, and I'm kind of going to just say this, and I'm gonna let Pastor, he can explain this, because I talked to him about this earlier, because there's so much here that I don't see. Why does there have to be a priest that arise from Urim and Thummim? Those, remember, if in Exodus, when they were God gave them instructions to build this breastplate for the priest. Those were on the breastplates of the priests, and they were supposed to be there with the names of the 12 stones. The 12 stones represented the 12 tribes, or the 12 sons of Israel. And these stones were supposed to be there. And the thing that sticks out to me is, when you look at Urim, it means fire, it means light, it means to illuminate. Thummim means perfection. It means integrity. It means to be upright, and symbolic of complete truth. So pull that together with verse 6-3, and the names in verse 6-3 that we look at. Havilah, the first one, it means to hide Yahweh, to hide Yah, or to conceal. Or the son of Habaz, Akaz, means thorns or briars. So Bazili means a heart of iron. So when you look at these things, and again, put that with what we're saying about this is talking about the here and now. If it was not for the disaster of them being caught up in captivity, this truth is not revealed, and the priesthood remains polluted. So this is something that came as a result of that. So can you help me pull all this in place, please?
Okay, let me see if anyone wants to speak to that before I begin talking. Okay.
Good morning. Good morning. Good morning. I couldn't get off mute fast enough. It seems that this is saying that these folk originally, their ancestors came, were the original ones who came out of captivity. However, the sons of certain ones married Barzillai, and I don't know what that means. The Gileadite. But the thing that caught my attention was, and took their name. When you take that name, you take on the characteristic of that particular name. So having not looked at what that meant, it tells me then that what was not seen was the original principles, not principles, but the original aspects of what that family meant. They took on the name, a different name. It's like us taking on a different characteristic other than who we genuinely are. If we respond in a way that is different from our being Elohim, that's like taking on the character, an external character of a different name. And so it's a little bit difficult for the universe to respond to us when we act in ways that are not in line with its principles. And this is saying that to me, it's saying that that's sort of what happened. They could not determine the actual connection because of that. And so that was one of the reasons the priest said, okay, hold that thought. In a sense, that's what it was saying. Hold that thought. We gotta make this connection before we can affirm that these are of the line of the original ancestors. Thanks.
I'm sorry. I heard Barbara, but I didn't hear her because of the background noise or whatever. It was hard to understand what you were saying.
Oh, I'm sorry. so that's saying repeated, right?
Well,
What,
I
what,
just,
what I, it was briefly what I, go ahead.
no, I was just
Can
saying,
I
I
add
couldn't
something before?
really, yeah, I couldn't really
Go
hear
ahead,
what you were saying. Yeah, that's all I was saying. Thank you.
Okay,
Barbara.
okay.
Let me
Yes,
say
sir.
this before you finish, and let you tie this in. The Gilderite, the name it took means to uncover, to reveal, or to go into exile. So
Ah,
that puts a different spin on it, doesn't it?
it does, but it's almost like it's two different spins. One is to reveal what, but the other one is to go into exile. Go into exile means what? So that means to reveal the true nature of the people, and hence, because you're not really one of us, you separate your own self. And I don't know. Sorry, I didn't have a chance to study this, but this is my first
No problem.
response to what you asked.
Yeah.
It talked about the sons of Hobaiah, Hakaz, Barzillai, and you talked about Hakaz's thorns, Barzillai, was heart of iron, and they had married a daughter of Barzillai, and the Gileadite, and you just said it meant to uncover, to reveal, to go into exile. But the thing that caught my attention was, and took that name.
Yeah.
And took that name refers to me, identifying oneself with that particular characteristic. And so
Yeah.
if Gileadite means uncover, reveal, go into exile, what was revealed about the Gileadite? Obviously, they were not found in the genealogy of the people who first came out, of the story of the people who first came out of captivity. So they could not have that connection. They could not place that connection with the ancestors, with their ancestors. And so it's and what I was saying, Ellen, was to me it was like us today. If we until we uncover who we really are, reveal, become aware of the Elohim that we are, and our connection to the SUM and the universe, professing to be Baptist, professing to be Catholic, whatever we profess to be, is almost like taking on the characteristics, the name of that which we align ourselves with, which is different from the universe, different from the ancestors, different from the principles of Ma'at. When we take on the principles of religion, perhaps, for instance, that's different from the truth of Ma'at, and the truth is that we are spiritual beings. So that's what this is saying to me. So it's almost like the priest says, hold that thought, until we can determine what that connection is. You can't partake of this holy they were barred from the ritual of covering them for being unclean. So that's what I got out of that, very briefly.
I listened to what you just said, and I saw something in your words, and I don't. Can it be too that the reveal is what is taking place now when we talk about everything being uncovered? And the pulling it into what we are looking at today, that is a part of the exile looks like to uncover, to reveal, and to go into exile, to disclose something. So can that be what the world looks like now? Or it looks like the chaotic that it's all chaotic and what's being revealed now. Not only when you talk about being revealed, that we're talking about the negative things, the falsehood of religion, or the falsehood of this thing that we call democracy, the falsehood of what freedom looks like, and all those things. But can it also be revealing the truth that is in the scriptures? All of that now is being revealed, but it comes, all of it, or comes with someone who desires and truly wants to see truth. Does that make sense?
I can see that, and I can see the separation of the wheat from the chaff, and I
Yeah.
can see this is an opportunity really for these sons of Hobaiah, Hakaz, and Barzillai. This is an opportunity because they have took on the characteristics of the Gileadite, and if we look at everything has a meaning, and that meaning can be inferred positively or negatively, as we talked about in dichotomies. And so if they are taking on the nature of, readiness to reveal their true nature, readiness to disclose who they truly are, that they aren't, that the exile that's spoken of is it's hard to describe it.
Yeah.
Hopefully it is not a complete permanent exile, because I'm at the place where I'm ready to show my heart. I'm ready to tear down the veils of ignorance, and I'm ready to have revealed who I truly am, my true nature, my true character, kind of thing. So it can be seen potentially as both ways. It depends on, as we've said before, how we choose to look, either with the eyes, EYES, or with the eye, EYE.
Yeah. Yeah. Thank you. Any questions so far, y'all? Evelyn, did it make sense that time? Did you hear it that time? Is everything okay?
Yeah, I did. Yeah. Yes, Ron. Thank you.
Okay.
Okay, Pastor, I'm ready for you, because you were ready to get on it.
I want to be sure. No questions or comments. First of all, let's look at these verses. There are some things I want to identify. The conclusion of not finding, the conclusion rather, after saying that the priests were polluted, it said that is the reason you cannot eat from the most holy things. I want you to keep that in mind. Let's look at these verses again. When we look at the priest, what is a priest? When we look at the word priest, it says one who does the duties of a priest, but you can't really identify a word by using the word itself. So a priest would be a verb as opposed to a noun. And what I mean by that is the way that the word priest is used in these verses is speaking to one who is in action. So it's speaking of the word priest as a verb. And a priest as a verb, what is that? It is an officiant, is one who officiates a divine message, or one who oversees, or one who delivers a divine message, a message of divinity. And heretofore, we have thought that a divine message comes from above, and meaning that it comes from God, which is external of us. However, since we understand who we are, we know that the message of the divine is who we are. So when the writer described the priest in verse 63, he gave the reasons that the priest was defiled. And what made the priest defiled? Well, the defiling of the priest, or the pollution of the priest, is found in the names, the what is it? Habail, Cause, Brazili, the names are there. So what defiled the priesthood is that Jehovah was hidden from them. They did not know God. They were, when it says that cause was a thorn, a thorn is something that pricks you, something that hurts you, something that is very uncomfortable to deal with. And the heart of iron is a heart that has no feelings whatsoever for humanity. Excuse me. So it's talking about a priesthood that is foreign to those of Israel, or to those who have been accustomed to following the edicts of the Creator. So when we look at that, what are we seeing? We are seeing that we're talking about a mindset. We're talking about principles of thought. And the reason I say that these scriptures are speaking to where we are now is because the mindset of the priesthood right now, the mindset of those who claim to be the officials of the divine message, that whole priesthood is described in these names. They don't know who the Creator is, have no clue of that. The words that they speak are words that are painful, and the heart are hearts of iron because they care about themselves and not others. So this whole idea of this type of spirituality, this type of priesthood, is one of a mindset, and that mindset is different than the mindset of spirituality. The spiritual priest does not have that type of a mindset. So what Nehemiah is writing here is saying that when this priesthood has no genealogy, has no ancestry with the true priesthood. And after it goes through all of these names, the ancestral names, it gets to that place in that 63rd verse where it says, and of the priests, the children of, and it names the priests and what type of priest they are. So it's saying that they have no place with the mindset of the ancestors. They have a different view of things than the ancestors. Their messages are different than the messages that the ancestral priests are introduced to us. So here we are. We are talking about the mindset of a religion that has no foundation in spirituality at all. We are talking about Islam, Christianity, Buddhism, etc. We're talking about all these isms that have no foundation in spirituality. We are talking about these religions that have been tainted by the mindset by the European mindset, bottom line, especially with Christianity. And that mindset, we grew up under that mindset. We grew up in places, churches with that mindset. We taught in the churches with that mindset, but we did not do it because we chose to do it. We did it because we did not know any better. We taught what we were taught, and we questioned things. And in questioning things, and because we were doing it, because we were sincere about what we were doing, it was not counted against us by our Creator. As a matter of truth, what happened is that the Creator maintained our life in the midst of the erroneous teachings that we had received and that we were also given. And now where we are at the place after our questioning so much and desiring to understand the true nature of what we have been teaching in the past, the thing that has sustained us, what we find out is it was not so much the principles of what we were taught that sustained us, but it was our sincere belief that we were doing the right thing that sustained us. Does that make sense so far?
Yes.
So
Yes.
understanding thank you, that our sincerity is what sustained us. The sincerity of our ancestors is what sustained us. And now here we are, we questioning everything. So now what we see is that we have been brought from, we have been shown what the priesthood that we have labored under. We have been shown who they are. And right now, as we are engaged in our understanding of the space that we occupy spiritually at this very moment, what we are beginning to see is that there has to be a shift in the spiritual mindset, meaning that the pseudo mindset of spirituality that we had was nothing more than religion, and it was empty, devoid of any power whatsoever. And the basis of it, excuse me, the basis of it was to keep us in exile, to keep us in a place that was separate from the place of the space that the Creator intended for us to occupy. So being in exile from that, we struggled greatly. And when there was raised up those who were willing to take the brunt of the pushback from challenging the powers that be, it is then that the book of truth was open to us. And at that moment, we begun to see the structure of a different priesthood, and that structure of a different priesthood came into existence. Why? Because when we looked at the documents of genealogy, or the documents of our ancestry, we saw no place in our ancestry, in our ancestral history of spirituality. We found no place where this type of mindset, or these type of people with these type of emotions that were devoid of empathy and that had no sense of God. We begun to see that these mindsets were something that we had to challenge, not only challenge, but to understand. And what we found is that we had taken on the name, we had taken on the character of the of these mindsets, not the character of the hard-heartedness, but the character of teaching the something that was in error that we called truth. And the confusion came because the perpetuators of these religions did not know God, and we were searching for God. The perpetuators of this religion had thorny hearts, meaning that they didn't care about hurting you, but we did. That was part of the confusion. And then the hard-heartedness of those who were perpetuators of this religion, that was so foreign for us. And that is the reason that we were so confused when it came to the scriptures, when it came to understanding what the spiritual nature of us should be. That was something that we had not been introduced to because of where our foundation had emanated. And that emanated from people who knew absolutely nothing about the true nature of spirituality, or the true nature of the one who created us all and everything that is. Are you with me so far? Are you still with me? Ladies and gentlemen.
Yes.
Yes. Yes.
Okay. So when we saw this, what did we do? We started searching for joy. We started searching for something different. We started searching for anything that would resonate with us, because this no longer resonated with us, because we saw evangelicals, we saw that Christianity was based upon white supremacy. We saw that that Islam was based upon the supremacy of Eurasians, which are called Arabs. we saw all of these religions that were separate from the mindset of the originators of spirituality, the ones in this earth who were and still are the most spiritual people in this earth. All of these things were separated from the people who were in the earth at the onset of humanity, the people who were in the earth, who left a genealogy, who left an ancestral roadmap that led back to them, a people who understood the functionality of the universe, the unicity that we have with the universe, the rhythm that is necessary for us to maintain our oneness with the universe, and that type of rhythm that gave us a heart for the whole of humanity. That type of rhythm that ensured that we were empathetic to anything that went wrong in the lives of humanity. And all of that, we were separated from that in that we were taught something totally antithetical to who we really are. Now, here we are. We are beginning to see that the reason that the ones who occupy pulpits and mosques and synagogues, the reason that they are unable to eat of the holy things is because they are polluted, meaning that they don't have the heart for humanity. The pollution, I mean, the eating of the holy things is talking about you cannot be consecrated to the extent that you are able to understand the spiritual nature, the spiritual truth, the spiritual essence of what is being said in the book that has been written. Even though the books have been manipulated, it is impossible to manipulate it to the extent that it is totally devoid of truth. There is truth in the books, and the truth that's in the books were hidden from those who did not have the mindset or have the heart for humanity. The hiding of it was not so much, I'm not going to let you see it, as much as it was, if your heart is not right, it will be impossible for you to see it, because you are seeing with your eyes. You are reading pages, but you are not allowing the pages to read you. You are seeing words, but you are not allowing yourself to see the spirit of the words. You're not looking at the words as containers of spirituality. You're looking at the words as instruments of manipulation and control. So that is the reason that the priesthood was defiled. And this priesthood was raised up in the midst of those who were in bondage, a people who were in bondage in a foreign land, a people who had been separated from their culture, a people who had been separated from the consciousness that they had grown up with, a people who had been indoctrinated into a belief system that was foreign to them. And Nehemiah is saying that the reason you will not be able to understand these spiritual things is because because your heart is not right. Bottom line, your heart is not right. And when it talks about the lights that's on the breastplate of the priest, it's talking about the priest must be enlightened, first of all, in order for the priest to have a divine message. And not only that, the priest must function with integrity. The integrity of the priest is paramount to being able to expound on what truth really is. And the priests that Nehemiah were describing in this verse 63, they were the priests who did not have any integrity whatsoever. They were the priests who were not enlightened at all. And then we see what happens is after Nehemiah talks about the reason that these priests are unable to be officiants of the divine message. Then he goes into the moving of the priests, the Levites, the porters, into the cities. And before I get into that, let me see if there are questions or comments. No questions or comments. So I guess this is clear so far. Okay. So when it gets into the latter parts of that, and he starts talking about them moving into the cities, I'm trying to find those exact verses where it is. He says that when they moved into the cities where the porters were the gatekeepers, and when it talks about the city moving into cities, that's important because when we look at the meaning of city in the in the Old Testament, the spiritual meaning of a city is a place of excitement. It is a place of an awakening. So when Nehemiah spoke and they recognized that this was not the true priesthood, when their hearts were turned in search of the priest who was to be raised up in their midst, for them to be able to partake of the holy things, it was then that their hearts that they rather became excited. It was then that an awakening took place. So here we are today. We are in a space where a couple of weeks ago, we were in this place of exile because we were looking at the results of an election through the eyes of a politician and not through the eyes of a priest. And when we looked at it through the eyes of a politician, we saw defeat. We felt defeated. Even though our minds was telling us you're not, it was our experiences internally were saying you are. Our responses to it were saying you are. Our tonality was saying the same thing. However, there's something stronger, something larger, something greater that overrode that. And what we were experiencing is this. Excuse me. Let me clear my throat, please. And what overrode this is our spiritual essence, overrode what our eyes were seeing and what our ears were hearing. And in overriding it, it showed us something different. And what we saw is that the whole essence of things that we have been railing against, the things that we have been making an effort to change, had already been changed, and they're changed spiritually before they manifest physically. And what I'm saying is this: we can no longer we can no longer make any efforts to embrace what's coming across the pulpit. We must embrace what's in our hearts, what's in the spirituality that's in the vessels of the words that's written on the page. Our character, our desires must shift from thinking that a politician is going to change things, from thinking that racism will be ended because someone wrote a piece of legislation that ended it. That is not going to happen. What we see with our eye, the message from the priest is this: your joy, your strength is in the Lord. Your joy, the fire that keeps you alive, is in the Lord. It comes from the Lord. It comes from you. You are Yahweh. You are Elohim. All of these characteristics are who you are. And in the midst of that joy comes your strength. Regardless of what you face, you were down last week or 2 weeks ago, but but now your joy has shown you how to regain the strength that you are. You are so what we're saying is, you are not a political person who voted 2 weeks ago. You are the characteristics of the one who created you. You are Elohim. You are Jehovah. You are Yahweh. You are all of these characteristics. And because you are these characteristics, therein lie your strength. Your power is in that. And because your power is in that, you are experiencing an awakening that you have never experienced before, that humanity has not seen since the beginning of the ancestry who initiated an understanding of spirituality in this earth consciousness. So what I'm saying, when we look and search for the priest in the midst of those of us who are in exile, we end up finding a priesthood that has been developed by those who took us into exile. But when we start searching within ourselves, what we begin to see is that there is a priesthood that's been raised up in our midst, a priesthood that whose soul has been awakened, a priesthood who sees that the nature of everything that is not going to change. I'm sorry, is not going to be changed by what we see with our eyes, but it is able to change the things that we see with our eyes. So the bottom line with all of this is that a priesthood must be raised up for the benefit of humanity. And this priesthood must hearken back through the annals of time. This priesthood must travel the pathway to its the pathway that its ancestry has left for it to travel in order for it to be able to enter this place of excitement and have an awakening that will bring humanity to a place where it is free from the bondage of those who have hearts of iron, from those who are always making efforts to keep people in a place of sorrow, in a place of hurt, in a place of struggle, and being able to expose those who don't even know God, don't even know the Creator, yet they pretend to know Him. It is from the ancestor that we are beginning to see the difference in the two, and it's simply because we have made the effort over the years to travel the pathway and follow the breadcrumbs that were left for us to follow by our ancestors. Does that make sense?
Yes.
Any questions or comments?
This is
Ron?
Ramel. I have a question.
Mute, Ron.
Go ahead.
I'm sorry. Somebody go ahead. You go ahead. I'll come next.
You sure, Ron?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. What I believe I heard was, so we are the priesthood, but did we also, I guess it's a twofold question. Were the priesthood that's spoken of here in Nehemiah 7, but did we go through a purging of, I'm going to call it pollution, from the religious ideas we were taught?
Yes, there is still pollution. And that is the reason we went through what we went through 2 weeks ago.
Okay.
Because
All right.
it's still there. Now, the question is this. The major question that you raised is, are we the priesthood?
Say again?
The major question that you raised is, are we the priesthood? You answer that question for
I
yourself.
think so.
See, just because you say it, don't make it it. And I'm not talking about you, Vermeil, personally,
I understand.
about any of us. Just because we say it doesn't make it true. When we look at what the priesthood is not, we can see what it is. The priesthood knows its creator. The priesthood is not a place of thorns. It's not a place of discomfort. It's not a place that is painful. It is not a place that keeps people off balance or keep them struggling to get above water. It is not a place of manipulation where you exert power over someone just because you can. The priesthood is not a place of hard-hearted people. It's not a place where the sorrow of someone doesn't touch you. or what you say to someone that hurts their feelings does not cause you to seek forgiveness for what you've done. The priesthood is not those things that were described in the 63rd verse. The priesthood is totally different than that. And I'm not going to say just the opposite. It's just totally different than that. The priesthood knows the Creator, and the priesthood will rather be hurt itself than to hurt someone else. The priesthood has a heart of gold and rather give too much than to receive more than it needs. The priesthood is willing to take upon it the burdens and the pain of humanity itself. The priesthood makes every effort to make sure that the words that flows from its mouth are words of comfort, a word of strength, a words of guidance, a words of encouragement, a words of enlightenment. The priesthood does that. The priesthood does not look for self-aggrandizement. The priesthood is not searching for something that's going to pat it on the back or make it or put his name on a marquee. The priesthood is not looking for someone who is going to elevate it above the Creator itself. The priesthood is simply searching for an understanding of truth so the priesthood can bring humanity to the space of truth, which means that the priesthood is the guiding force that seeks to bring humanity into the city, into the place of excitement, into a place of an awakening. That's the priesthood. So the question is, does that fit you? How much of that is true about you? And I'm not talking about Vermeil because you raised the question. I'm talking about all of us. How much of that fits you? How much of you are you willing to give? How much of you have you allowed to die because it was not conducive to the eating of the holy things? How many times have you allowed yourself to endure pain, to endure hurt, in order to keep from hurting someone else? How many times have you been, quote unquote, what we call the bigger person, as opposed to being the smaller one, thinking you're the bigger one? How many times has that happened with you? That's what determines whether or not you're a priesthood. That's the question you ask. You answer yourself. And guess what? The response to that question still doesn't mean you're it. When you are, everyone sees it without you having to announce it, because your thoughts become your words and your words become your actions. And if your actions are reflective of what the priesthood is, then yes, you are priesthood. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Vermeil.
It most certainly does.
Okay,
Thank you.
you're quite welcome. Anyone else? Questions or comments about that?
Well, while you were talking about characteristics of those who had a different mindset, religion, blah blah blah, what reverberated in me was the internal question: who told you that you were naked? That's what reverberated. Who told you that you were naked? Who told you that you were uncovered? Who told you that you were separated from me? Who told you that you were apart from me? Who told you that you were different from me? In other words, the introduction of these ideas that were not synonymous with the priesthood, introduction of stuff that man makes up, introduction of stuff that has nothing to do with being the essence of who you are. Who told you you were uncovered? And that's the question I asked myself. Who told me that I wasn't a priest? Who put it in my mind that I wasn't the essence of who I truly am? And so, I mean, that it just reverberated in me all the way back to that original question. Who told you?
Yeah. And your priorities tells you not only who told you that, but your priorities also shows whether or not you're priesthood. What are your
Yeah.
priorities? what's most important to you?
Can I read something to you,
Sure.
please, sir? Um, in trying to get understanding of the Urim and the Thummim, I went back as far as I could to find where they were first used, and this was talking about the breastplate of Aaron. Uh, I want to read something to you. I'm in Exodus chapter 28, verse 28 and 29. It says, Aaron will regularly carry the named sons of Israel on the breastplate of judgment over his heart as he enters the sanctuary into the presence of God for remembrance. And I'm reading from the Message Bible, okay? I'm going to read that again. Aaron will regularly carry the names of the sons of Israel on the breastplate piece of judgment over his heart as he enters the sanctuary to the presence of God in remembrance. Place the Urim and the Thummim in the breastpiece of judgment. They will be over Aaron's heart when he enters the presence of God. In this way, Aaron will regularly carry the breastpiece of judgment into the presence of God. Listen to that last part. In this way, Aaron will regularly carry the breastpiece of judgment into the presence of God. So if you look at this and we're trying to decide an individual thing, if you are a priest or not, the sons of Israel were not all saints. They did some saintly things, but they were not all saints. They had turmoil like we experienced turmoil, and some of the things that you read about and see that they did weren't all godly things. So if we are the priesthood, that is what we carry. You carry that to look at, these are people that I care about. When I'm in the presence of God, which should be all the time, but when I'm in the presence of God, who am I considering? I got to consider the whole nation. I can't say this one or that one or this thing that was done and that thing that was done. My love, my compassion, and I am the one that presents the judgment. Is my judgment just? Those two things, the Urim talks about enlightenment, being illuminated. Am I seeing the wisdom in who I am when I'm in the presence of God on behalf of mankind? The other one talks about being complete and being upright, your integrity, complete truth. So as we in this search, this daily search, in not just on Saturdays, Sundays, and Mondays, but are we searching for truth at all times? And the things that we see, do we consider that all that we see happen and all of the things that we pick up paper or see on the newspaper, all of these people are part of mankind. All of these people are part of what's on your breastplate or in your heart, is what this is trying to say. So the presence of God is, I stay in that holy place. I stay internal. I stay inside of me. And I'm continuously carrying that compassion for mankind with me. And even when I stumble at times, that compassion for mankind supersedes that, and that is part of why I pick myself up, because of who I am and what I'm doing here. And when those things on TV happens, you cut it off if it's going to pull you to a place, because you have to remember that I am Aaron and Aaron is me. And that means more than anything. Now here's the part that I had a question about, and I'm stop talking, let somebody else talk. This is something that as much as we've talked about this, I missed it. All those, whether you're looking at from Genesis to the Gospels, wherever you talk about, when it gives that genealogy tree, or like in Matthew, when it talks about the genealogy of how they got from to Jesus, and I never stopped to think those were ancestors. In other words, what I'm asking is, by us discussing this now, and my eyes anyway being open to that, Does that energize that energy that is lied dormant because I didn't understand it up until now? Maybe these names have lied dormant in our hearts, or because we did not understand what it means to be one with the ancestors. So as we uncover this now and energize these things, are we putting this in motion? And will that enhance our ability as we desire to see truth based on the Thurman here, as we desire to see truth, will truth become more available to us because we have released this energy?
Yes, words are important. When we talk about genealogy, we just see a bunch of names with no meaning. We just see a lot of people who preceded some other people within that lineage. But when we talk about ancestry, it carries a different connotation because ancestry is more personal. Ancestors, when we talk about ancestors, it looks like you. When we talk about genealogy, we're talking about something that's written on a page that we've been taught. It's the genealogy of Jesus, etc. Does that make sense so far?
Mm-hmm.
So
yes.
The power that's in, or the energy that's in ancestor, the energy that's in it is released when we recognize the reality and the power of ancestors. Think about it this way. They did not say genealogy.com. It says ancestry.com. Find out who you are. That's what ancestry speaks to, who you are. Genealogy speaks to something separate from you that came through a whole line of people who are separate from you. But ancestry means something totally different than that. Does that make sense?
It does. Yeah, it brings it close. Yeah. Never mind. Yes.
Oh, go ahead.
I'm just gonna say, yeah, it that resonates when you say ancestors instead of genealogy. Yeah, that word. Yeah, it resonates. Yeah, I feel it more deeply. I can connect to that. Yes.
Okay. Let me show you something else in the scriptures that we read in Nehemiah. In what verse is that? I think it may be 65. I don't know because I don't have it open right now. But it says, it begins to delineate who's there in the city. It said the priests, the Levites, the porters, the singers. Now it differentiated between the Levites and the priests. You see that? The priest was supposed to come from the tribe of Levi, right?
Mm-hmm.
So that means that simply because you are a member of the tribe of Levi, it does not necessarily make you ripe, R-I-P-E, to be a priest. And that struck me when you said that all the priests did not live accordingly to the way they're supposed to, or they did not live up to what was expected of them. Yeah. All the Levites did not follow the dictums that would bring them to a place of embracing the priesthood in a manner that the Creator intended to be embraced. And that is why we find that the priests looking for anniversaries every year. That's why we find that the priest is looking for someone to serve them as opposed to them being servants. Does that make sense?
Yes.
Yeah, it does.
That does.
Didn't Aaron try to make his sons priests and the Creator wasn't happy with that?
Yes.
Something like that.
Yeah.
Anyway, but my other comment is it's amazing to me that we've read these things for years and years and years, and we look at the genealogy for all these people in the Bible, and it was a very important thing. And then for us, our genealogy just got crushed and cut off because they knew it was an important thing. And it was part of their way of taking away who we were. I mean, this is obvious, but this is part of their way of taking away who we are. But it was also part of their way of stealing our sense of joy. And joy is rooted in our sense of connection. And all of that was just taken away. So it's kind of obvious, but I'm just sitting here just realizing that, yeah, and all these the truth of these genealogies is that they were very important. Ancestors, knowing your ancestors is a very important thing. And we got that all taken away from us.
And to this day, again, they know who we are. We don't. There is no reason to crush anyone's history if you think they don't have a history. If you think that they are barbarians, if you think that they have no history worth knowing, why would you try to hide it? You hide it because you have no history. You hide it because your history, you are trying to hide it because your history tells a different story about you than the history of those who you have attempted to crush. The reason that culturally we can be crushed, but spiritually we cannot. You can cause me to forget my language. You can force me to remove myself from the spiritual practices of my ancestors. You can force me to repeat things that are written on a page that you call a holy book. You can do all of that. But the day comes when I realize who I am. I can't tell you who I am, but I know that I am more than what you say I am. How do I know that? Because I feel it. I feel it. I walk around in the chicken yard with the chickens, but I feel something different about me. And one day I flap my wings and I realize something. I'm not a chicken, I'm an eagle. And I'm able to fly above all of those things that you said that I am. And what happens is I go back to that chicken yard and I tell the rest of them who are called chickens that you are not a chicken. You are the truth that has been crushed to the ground. But the truth that's crushed to the ground shall rise again. Flap your wings. You may not get off the ground the first time that you flap them, but do it again. The reason it's difficult for you to raise yourself the first time you flap them is because they're not strong enough yet. You don't have a strong enough foundation that is self-evident that shows you who you are. But keep flapping your wings. Keep hearing with your heart. Keep believing that you are more than a chicken. And the day will come when you will realize that you too are an eagle. And all of those who told you that you were a chicken are those who have no history. They don't know who they are. And when they do know who they are, it is not anything comparative to who you are. So your history has been stolen and manipulated to keep you in a place of bondage. Your understanding of that your ancestors had of self has been hidden from you and usurped by others, so that you will have a low self-esteem. Look at this. the glory of the queens, the kings and queens of Europe. Think about that. How much glory does the royal family have when you realize that they didn't take a bath for 2 or 3 years? They didn't know what it was to take a bath until Africans showed them what hygiene was. How much glory is in the reality that the only time that the queen took a bath is when she got married? And there were no facilities for them to dispose of their waste. And they did it in the yard or on the side of the street. But the African had irrigation systems during that period of time. Hygiene was a high priority for the African. So don't take the true history of you and put it on my shoulders in order for you to keep me in bondage, and at the same time hide from me who I am, because the day is going to come when there is going to be an awakening within me. There's going to be a shaking and an awakening, and when I'm awakened, there's going to be such an excitement about knowing who I am until I want to share it with others. And then even those who don't know how to care for themselves, I want to share it to the extent that they learn how to care for themselves. I am the spiritual essence of who my ancestors are, not were, but are. I am the voice of the ancestors. I am the physical representation, the physical manifestation of everything that my ancestors stood for. That's who I am. My ancestors did not go to Europe to crush Europe. My ancestors went to Europe to raise them up. My ancestors went to Europe to show them how to build houses, to teach them architecture, to show them how to practice proper hygiene, to show them how to farm, to show them that it was not necessary to steal and to kill for what you wanted, but show them how to acquire things that would be beneficial to the entire community. I am the voice of my ancestors. I am the manifestation of my ancestors. Therefore, I cannot be angry with someone who perpetuates what a Donald Trump perpetuates or a Joe Biden perpetuates. I cannot be angry with the people who perpetuate a system that is antithetical to my ancestry. I have to be empathetic with them because they don't know any better. My ancestry says that my empathy towards them will bring them out of a dark place and bring them into the marvelous light. That is the ancestry from which I come. That is the ancestry that I am. That is the power within me. That is the power that I am. And if I am you and you are me, then the I am of whom I speak is all of us. If I cannot have empathy for my brother, my sister, if I cannot have empathy for Audrey, I can't have empathy for Trump. If I can't speak kindly to Audrey, I can't speak kindly to Trump. What am I saying to you? If you cannot be kind to each other, how can you be kind to someone or expect to be kind to someone who's not kind to you? Your ancestry demands it. Ancestry is more than people who came before you. Ancestry is a body of energy. Ancestry is a spiritual energy that unites all of us. Ancestry is an energy force that brings order to everything that's in disarray. Ancestry brings understanding to all of those things that are confused. And ancestry digs deep into the wisdom of the universe and brings understanding to it so that we understand that the rhythm, the energy that occupies our bodies is the same energy that occupies our ancestors and the same energy that occupies the universe, which makes all of us one. And those who don't understand that, it is incumbent upon us to teach that, to show that by our actions, by our speech. And when we teach that and show that, It is then that we can have an expectation that all will become Israel and no one will be bastardized by virtue of going after other gods that look good but have no power whatsoever. We don't have to be an adulterous nation because we were not reared to be an adulterous nation. We were not brought into this earth. We have ancestors who guides us so that we do not become an idolatrous nation. So we are not an adulterous nation. We are not worshiping a God that doesn't exist. We are not engaged in theology. Theology is a study of God. How are you going to understand all the nuances of the one who created you? It's impossible. That is not who we are. We are not just human. The only thing that makes us a human is the body. The rest of us, everything else about us is ancestral energy. That's who we are. Yeah. Does that make sense to you?
Yes, yeah.
That's who we are. We are ancestral energy. Genealogy, no. Genealogy talks about humans. Genealogy talks about in my genes, there is a Clark. In my genes, there is a Richard. There is a Lipscomb. There is a Rice. In my genes. In my genes, there is a Nigerian. In my genes, there is a Ghanaian. In my genes, there is an Irishman. In my genes. But in my line of ancestry, there is spirituality. There is holiness. There is truth. In ancestry, there was love, there was kindness. In ancestry, there are the principles of Mayat. In my ancestry, there is a love of humanity that supersedes anything that I could ever find in my genes. Does that make sense? Ancestry is powerful. And the sooner we embrace the reality of ancestry, the sooner we will realize the power that we are and the strength of our being, and joy would never fade from us. And joy would never be covered again as it was 2 weeks ago. We will have a constant reminder of who we are. And judging who we are is not understanding who we are is not based upon what we see with our eyes. It's not based upon circumstances. Neither is it based upon the environment in which we were reared or the environment that we currently live in. It's based upon the origin of your being. And the origin of our being is over 4 million years ago. That's our ancestry. We have a spiritual ancestry. This is no coincidence that everyone knows, and those who are honest with themselves will tell you that the most spiritual people on this earth are those who are Africans. That's our ancestry. We have an ancestry of spirituality. And the spirituality of others, those who are grasping spirituality, that spirituality they are grasping had its origin in our ancestral line, our ancestral lineage, regardless of who they are. Even those who are holding on to a rope that's tied to nothing that's called religion, they made every effort to extract from our ancestral line the spiritual essence of our being in order to justify the lies that they wrote on the pages. It is undeniable that we are the manifestation of every ancestor that has ever walked the face of this earth. That is the reason I say that my desire is to have the mindset of the Cushite priest, the Kemetic priesthood. I want to understand the spiritual nature, the way that the priests process. I want to understand how the priests was able to reach into the hearts of others and show them the way of righteousness. The book that is written that's called the Bible, the truth in that book are the truth that we are realizing right now. The things that we are seeing in this book, on these pages, the thing that we have been discussing from Nehemiah, came from our ancestors. Kathy opened the book of Nehemiah and the ancestors guided her to open it. The ancestor gave her a message. The ancestors have guided along this pathway to show us that this book was written for such a time as this, and that these pages, these stories are more than stories. They are a way of life. They are a map to guide us from bondage to freedom and to guide others from ignorance to knowing. This book has not been seen the way we are being shown until now. I have never read anything that opens the book up the way that the Creator is showing us how to open it up now. Showing us truly that words are containers of truth if you know how to drink from the container. But in order to do it, you must be a true officiant of the divine message, not a message of religion, but a message of spirituality that is not self-serving, but is a servant for all of mankind. Questions or comments? I'm done.
I have a question. Is that what makes the book holy? What you just described to us?
The thing that makes the book holy means to be set aside. The thing that sets the book aside is understanding it. Meaning that we have called it holy. It's been set aside for one purpose. In Christianity, the book was set aside to keep us in bondage. Islam, the same thing. All the isms, the same thing. But we have determined the life of the book because of the life that we are. We have found our ancestry in the book. And when we embrace the ancestry in the book, then it's set aside for the life of humanity. Does that make sense? Evelyn?
Well, yeah, that's the true. Yes, that's the true meaning of the book being holy.
Yes.
That's what I was asking you. Yes. Okay. Thank you.
You're welcome. Anyone else? Thank you.
Yes. Good morning. This is Mary. So this is awesome. It's just awesome. So when we look at the book of Peter, and it says, "For you are chosen people, a royal priesthood, and a holy nation." I'm thinking that ties in. Do you agree or disagree?
Oh, yes, it does tie in. It does tie in. But see, the idea of royalty does not build walls between us and other people. When we think about royalty, we think about the Queen of England or the King of England and the walls that separate them from the common people. When we talk about royalty in the sense of the African genealogy, the African ancestry, we are talking about men and women. We're talking about a group of people who recognize that they were servants to the people, not for them to be served by the people. Does that make sense, Mary?
Yes, I see that. Because if you are in the priesthood, you're supposed to be there as a servant. So yes, but I never understood that scripture until it came alive today as y'all were talking. So thank you.
Thank you. Let me tell you something personal with me. I didn't understand until recently. One of the reasons that I've had all kinds of opportunity to enrich myself financially and my family, of course, but they never appealed to me. And recently, I've begun to understand why. Why is it that I can tell someone else, well, you need to invest in that stock, and they do it, and they make tons of money. Why is it does not interest me? I never understood that, why I could not do that until now. I'm a priest. What you are, you determine. My livelihood does not come from investments. My livelihood comes from me investing in those who I cover. I will always be taken care of because the Creator is my source. The universe is my source. My interest, my foundational interest is in what I do 7 days a week, but in particular, Saturday, Sunday, and Monday. That's my investment. Something else dawned on me. The teachers, you were in this place when we met a couple of weeks ago. This is called my man cave. By people who know that I spend most of my time in here, my man cave. This is the only man cave that you have ever seen that only have books and no sports paraphernalia. Think about that. My man cave is a space where I live in a cave in order to glean from my ancestors the pathway that we are to be guided on. It is my man cave does not search for joy in those mundane things in the earth. Do I like sports? Yes, but that's not my focus. I don't have banners hanging around, but I do have those things of guidance. So I've begun to understand recently that my life is and has been dedicated to humanity for longer than I can remember. And even during the times when I didn't know any better, the guidance is there. The other night when I was there in the presence of my ancestors that I shared with you yesterday, a lot of things have unfolded with me since then. And the unfolding of those things have given me the insight to be able to negotiate these scriptures and given me the strength to stand fast in the face of adversity. They're giving me the strength to admit when I'm wrong, giving me the strength to admit that I was seeing with my eyes and not my eye, undeniably knowing that there is a residual of religion in me that caused me to see with my eyes. A reality that as much as I make every effort to travel the journey that the ancestors have laid out in front of me, there is something in me still that follows that pathway or that sees that pathway of religion. And I have to deal with that constantly. That is a daily journey for me. I don't know what it is for you, but I promise you this. There is not one of you who has ever endeavored to be in the religious setting, to be in church, and to be where we are now. Not one of you have been completely cleansed of what church has done for us, to us. Every one of us still deal with that. The question is, are you willing to admit it so you can walk beyond it? But you don't have to admit it to James Richard. You have to admit it to yourself. I wanted to share that with you because I want you to understand that when you recognize who you really are, a lot in your life changes. Your focus shifts. And you look retrospectively at your journey and you began to see that the pathway that you've traveled has led you to this place. And this is not something that's new to you. This is something that you just recognized. Does that make sense?
Yeah, it does.
So I
Yes, it
share
does.
that with. So do an introspection of you.
Yeah.
And see where you are. Do an introspection of you. And find out for you if you are in that space that you think you're in. How committed are you to the journey? It is imperative that what we talked about yesterday, about that upper room experience, it is imperative. It is imperative that those who would teach come to an understanding that the upper room is not the place to be. The place to be is in the midst of humanity. In the upper room, you're protecting yourself. In the midst of humanity, you're seeking the change for the benefit of humanity. Where are you? It's imperative that you recognize who you are. You embrace who you are. Your priorities are guided towards being who you are. Your priorities are focused on change, not just in this American society, but in the earthly society, so that humanity can live the way the Creator intended for it to live and not exist in a paradigm of bondage. Thank you.
Hey, Pastor, this is Charles. I have a question.
Yes, sir.
It's back when you said he came to steal, kill, and destroy. He said that was spoken in the Bible. Help me to understand what you mean by that today.
When it talks about the adversary came to steal, kill, and destroy, that is talking about anyone that has an adversarial attitude towards spirituality. That's what it's talking about. It came to steal from those who are spiritual, to kill, to destroy everything that we believe in.
Okay, that's what I thought. Thank you.
Thank you, Joe. Ron?
Thank you. All righty. Hope everybody has a thought today. I'll thank you, those who have spoken. And the rest of you, thank you for your energy.
Who?
Okay. Hope you have a good, great rest of your day. It's a little chilly up in the upstate here, but that's okay. It's that time of year. So, guys, be safe and look forward to seeing you tomorrow evening. Okay. Thank you.
Thank you, guys.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Thank you.
Thank you, everyone.
Thank you.
Marvin.